Hi everyone, this is Becca from Becca's Music Room. I'm a music teacher who talks about teacher tips, teacher life, teacherpreneurs, and all things that might hopefully make your life just a little bit easier. Today I'm here with something that is super important, and that is reflecting on my year as a music teacher. This is something that every teacher ought to do every single year, and also I would suggest that you do it in the middle of the year. So I do mine at the end of the year, and then the beginning of the year I set goals, and then I reflect in the middle when we get to like January, right before that second semester. This way you can keep track of what you want to accomplish in your classroom, if you're accomplishing it, and what you can do to make more accomplishments happen. So the 2018-2019 school year was my second year of teaching. I was at the same school that I was at for my first year and also for my student teaching. So I've now been there for 2.5 years, but only 2 years on the payroll. It was very different. I work at a school that is inner city, Title I, and this year it was a turnaround school, which basically means that my school was on the failing list for so long that the county went through and turned it around. So they got rid of a ton of teachers, brought in almost an entirely new staff. I think we had 15 people who were teachers my first year who came back this year, including me. We got new administration. I mean, it has been a hectic year. With all of that, it has still been a very good year. Second year, definitely better than the first. So if you are a first year teacher, there is hope, I promise. And I'm gonna go through a couple really specific things that were different about my second year teaching than my first year. The first thing that was different was that the honeymoon phase was over very quickly. My first year of teaching, I was in that zone of like, yeah, I'm excited and new and all this stuff from basically the beginning of the school year until like January. Now, that doesn't mean that my kids were good. It does not mean that everything went well. It just means that I was really excited and I was in that honeymoon phase where even when things were bad, it was still good and it was great. And in February, I like hit a wall that first year. I don't know what it was, but I just got to this point where I was like, oh good gracious, what have I done? I had just signed my contract to come back this year and I was like, why did I do that? This is horrible. Like everything was going wrong. The kids were crazy. It was just crazy town. This year, the honeymoon phase was a lot shorter. So it was probably just August and September. And by October, I was kind of already like, do I have to go to school? Can I just stay home? But I snapped out of it so much sooner. So that like crummy phase lasted a lot shorter. And when we got to the spring, like it was fine. I mean, it was hectic and it was crazy because it was the spring, but it was not as much of an issue. So overall, I personally felt like the second year was easier, even just for that reason, because I know that first year I was like really struggling for a while, but this year I did not have quite as much of that issue towards the end of the year, and that was really nice. Also, second year, just knowing a lot more is so helpful. I have been in choir since 7th grade and I was in band before that. So I have been very used to like performing in groups. But when I got into my first choir rehearsal with my kids, I was like, what do I do now? I seriously was thinking about it before they came in. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I teach them? What do we sing? I don't know. I don't know anything. And it was very stressful and hectic, and we pulled it together and it was fine. But this year was just so much better because I already at least kind of knew what to do. One of the big things with my choir was my first year we had a lot of behavior issues, and this year I put in a system. I was like, we're not dealing with that. Choir is my time to enjoy hanging out with you, and I don't want anyone in here who does not deserve it. And honestly, I kicked a lot of students out. Now, it was for some major things like fights and suspensions, or just having consistently terrible rehearsals many weeks in a row and things like that. But still, I kicked a lot of kids out. I had to do recruiting in January because I didn't have enough. But it was so worth it because I ended up with students who actually wanted to be there, and they knew that I meant what I said and that we were going to work. We're also gonna have fun, but we were gonna work, and we were gonna work hard, and we were gonna sound good. So choir went so much smoother. I was able to actually pick out music earlier, decide, how we were gonna do things. I had a schedule this year, which made all the difference in the world. This is what we're rehearsing today. This is what we're rehearsing next time. And it just changed everything, absolutely everything. So definitely choir went so much better this year, and I was very content with that. Two of my big goals this year were to figure out better ways to assess, and then also to use that assessment and do more differentiation and centers and things like that. I actually have a video that should be coming out soon that is all about that, so stay tuned. I actually filmed it 6 months ago, and I just found it and realized that I never put it up. But I will link some blog posts that I wrote down below that talk about this journey that I have been on recently and really, really worked at. My first year, I didn't know anything about assessment. I didn't know how to assess them. I didn't know what I should assess them on. It was very much what are we gonna do next week? I just need to plan next week. And this year I was able to think more on a broad scale and do more assessment. I also learned how to do things on PowerPoint so I could make my assessments, which made a huge difference because that first year I didn't know how to make rhythm cards or assessments or PowerPoints or anything. So that really made a huge difference. Learning how to do TPT changed my teaching life, honestly. So this year I worked really hard on data collection, assessment, on formative data, walking around and checking kids off. I tried to do at least one check every day. Even sometimes it's just for singing, sometimes it's for being on the right pitch, sometimes it's for rhythm. I just walk around while we're playing, just whatever. I try to do something every day. Doesn't always happen, but I do try. That is something that went so much better this year. Centers also went a lot better this year. I will link some centers blog posts down below because that's another thing. The first time I did centers, I had no clue what I was doing. And this year we had it down pat. By the end of the year, my kids knew where they were going, who they were gonna be with, how we rotate. It was figured out. There are still a few little things that I would like to fix and just some better ways that I think we could transition smoother, but by the end of the year, we were rocking it, and I am excited about that. Now, those are kind of my good things that I'm excited about for the year. My big main thing that I think I did not do well this year was my pacing and my scheduling. I tried, but it didn't happen. I had a super funky schedule this year. So last year I saw, I had my Monday classes, my Tuesday classes, my Wednesday classes, and so I would teach the same thing for a week, and then I'd get a new lesson next week. This year I see the same group of students for a whole week at a time, and then the next week I have a different set. So I would have this first grade class for a whole week, and next week I would have a different first grade class, and it would keep going until I ran out. So it was a 5-week rotation, and it was really challenging. There were good things about it, actually. Behavior got better, the learning was a lot deeper. I was worried the kids were not gonna remember things, but I think that we went so in depth, having 5 days in a row where we were learning usually the same concept, that they learned better, honestly. And so some good things came out of it, but also some bad things, like having just a hot mess of a schedule. Things like when one group of kids would only come to me twice in a week, or only 1 day in a week instead of 5 days. They would just fall so far behind because I still have to plan 5 days because I have classes that I see every day for a week, but then I had other classes that I would only see 1 or 2 days just because they happened to fall in that week that had PBIS and awards day and a holiday and this and that. And so it's just, we ran into some issues with that, especially at the end of the year. Oh, good gracious. Basically after February, there was nothing happening because I had a week and a half where we had people come and visit and talk about some really important things that the kids needed to learn about, safety and all these things, but they took our time for it. So literally I missed one entire set of kids plus half of another set of kids. So like those kids, I did not teach them at all for a week. So they went literally like over 2 months without having music. And when I got them back, I was like, crud, you know, what do I do with them now? And I happened to get them back on another crummy week where I was like missing them. And I mean, the kindergarten class, I told the teacher, I was like, I'm so sorry, your kids haven't had music in like 3 months, but we're going on this field trip. Hopefully they'll enjoy it. Because we had that. The next time I saw them was testing, so I only saw them 20 minutes, and I didn't see the kindergarten class at all. And then the next time I saw them was like the last week of school. So that was fun. So I did not anticipate those kind of problems. And so there were a lot of concepts I was going to do in the second semester that I didn't end up hitting because of that. Also, I think my sequencing, I like tried a different sequence and I didn't like it as much. So I'm still trying to figure out like when I'm gonna teach certain concepts to have them make sense the most. We shall see how that goes. Along with my reflections, I am setting my goals for next year. My goals for next year are to fix that sequencing problem, first off and foremost. Secondly, up engagement in my upper grades, which I think will happen because I'm doing a program called Little Kids Rock, which frankly kind of terrifies me because we're gonna get like guitars and ukuleles and basses and things that I am not comfortable with. But you know, that's one of my main goals. So those are really my two biggest ones. And then work on behavior management, which is always my number one thing. And you know, third year, still working on it. It's getting better for sure, and it's not terrible, but it could always be better. Yeah, so I'm hoping to take my kids deeper into music, but also have a lot of fun with them next year. And we shall see how that turns out. Let me know down in the comments whether you have some of the same things that I have, some of the different things that I have, and if there's anything that you would like to tell me about your reflections on this year, whether it's your first year or your 25th year. I think it's always important to reflect on your year so that you can come up with things you can improve on next year. Because as teachers and as people, really, you always just want to be the best you can be. And the way that you do that is you look honestly at how your year went, and then you see what areas you can improve on. Those are my areas that I can improve on, and also the things that went a lot better for me. If you have any questions about them or comments about your own reflections, leave them down in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, entertaining, or anything, please like, subscribe, and share so we can help other teachers as well, and have a wonderful, wonderful week.